April 13th is not just another date. It marks the moment a powerful karmic doorway swings open, and something, or someone, begins to quietly exit your life. Not by accident, not by coincidence, but by design. You may not have noticed it at first. It didn't come with a dramatic ending, or a clear goodbye. Instead, it arrived like a shift in the air. A subtle emotional withdrawal. Silence where there used to be noise. And now you're here, feeling it. That strange, hollow space where connection once lived. That unsettling realization that something is slipping away. This is your warning, and you're awakening because the universe is not just removing them, is revealing something to you. Something you were not meant to see until now. And if you ignore this moment, you risk repeating a cycle that has already taken too much from you. This is a karmic shift, a closing chapter, crossing of a threshold you cannot return from. And the truth is, you've been standing at this doorway longer than you think. There is a reason this energy feels so heavy, because this isn't just about losing someone. This is about breaking a pattern that has followed you through time. It's through choices, through versions of yourself you've already outgrown. For weeks, maybe even months, something has felt off. You may have tried to explain it away, telling yourself they were just busy, distracted, going through something. You gave them space, you gave them understanding, gave them chances. But deep down, there was a voice inside you, quiet but persistent, whispering that something wasn't right. You felt the distance before you could name it. You noticed the shift in their tone, the inconsistency in their presence, the way their energy no longer met yours in the same way. And still, you stayed. Not because you didn't see it, but because you hoped it would change. This is where the karmic pattern reveals itself, because this wasn't just about them. It was about your willingness to stay at a doorway that had already begun to close. You were standing at a threshold, one foot in what was familiar, and one foot in what was calling you forward. But the longer you hesitated, the heavier it became. The more drained you felt. The more confused your emotions became. That is the weight of karmic delay. And now, the universe has made the decision for you. This shift you are feeling right now, this emotional detachment, this sudden clarity, this uncomfortable sense of finality, it is not punishment. It is alignment. Something in your life has reached its energetic expiration, and instead of forcing you to let go, the universe is removing the illusion that you still have something to hold on to. That's why it feels so strange, because part of you still remembers what it used to be, the connection, the closeness, the potential. But the reality you are facing now is different, and your soul knows it. This is the moment where truth overrides attachment, and that truth may hurt. You may feel a tightness in your chest when you think about them, a heaviness when their name crosses your mind. You may find yourself replaying conversations, searching for answers, trying to understand where things changed. But the deeper truth is this: it didn't suddenly change, it slowly revealed itself. And now you are being asked to see it clearly. This is the threshold, a space between what was and what will be. And it is here, in this exact moment, that everything begins to shift. Because this is not just about losing someone. This is about reclaiming yourself. There is a reason the universe chose now, because you are no longer the version of yourself who once needed this connection. You have grown. You have evolved. You have reached a level of awareness where certain dynamics can no longer exist without causing you pain. And that pain you've been feeling, it's not because you're losing them. It's because you've outgrown them. Version of yourself that stayed. This is where the karmic cycle breaks. But breaking a cycle doesn't feel like freedom at first. It feels like loss. It feels like confusion. It feels like standing in front of a doorway that is closing, wondering if you should run back through it before it's too late. But what you don't see yet is what's waiting on the other side. Because every karmic ending creates space for a new beginning. And right now, not whether you realize it or not, something is already preparing to enter your life, but it cannot arrive while you are still holding on to what is meant to leave. This is the law of energetic alignment. You cannot receive what matches your future if you are still anchored to your past. And that is why this moment feels so intense. Because you are not just letting go of a person, you are letting go of a pattern. A pattern of overgiving, a pattern of waiting, a pattern of trying to prove your worth to someone who is never fully able to meet you. And now, the universe is showing you something you cannot unsee. The imbalance, the emotional disconnect, the truth behind the illusion. This is where everything becomes real, and it may not feel empowering yet. It may feel like grief, like disappointment, like a quiet heartbreak that no one else can fully understand. But this is sacred, because this is the moment you stop abandoning yourself to keep someone else. This is the moment you step fully onto your side of the threshold and allow the door to close behind you. And yes, it will close, not because you failed, but because you are ready now. Here's what you must understand about this karmic shift. It is not random. It is precise. Every emotion you are feeling right now is part of a larger realignment happening within your life. You may notice your energy fluctuating. You feel strong, detached, clear. The next, you feel emotional, nostalgic, pulled back into memories. This is the nervous system processing a release. This is your mind trying to catch up to what your soul already knows. And in this space, you must be very careful, because this is where old patterns try to re-enter. You may feel the urge to reach out, to check in, to reopen a conversation that has already shown you everything you needed to see. But this is the test. The doorway has opened. Now, the question is, will you walk through it? Or will you stand there, holding on to something that is already gone? This is where your power lies. Not in controlling the situation, not in fixing the connection, but in choosing yourself when everything in you wants to go back to what feels familiar. Because familiar is not always aligned, and comfort is not always truth. This is the deeper lesson of this moment. You are being taught how to trust what you feel, even when it leads you away from what you wanted. And that is not easy, because letting go requires you to accept something your heart may not be ready to fully understand yet, but your soul is. Your soul has been guiding you here for a long time. Every moment of discomfort, every subtle red flag, every feeling that something was off, it was all leading to this awakening, this realization, this crossing. And now you're here, standing at the edge of what was and what will be, and the only thing left to decide is whether you will move forward or stay behind. Because the doorway will not stay open forever, and once it closes, the version of your life that existed before this moment will no longer be available to you. This is not meant to scare you, it is meant to wake you up, because something better is waiting, but it requires your courage, your awareness, your willingness to let go. And as difficult as this may feel, you are not losing something meant for you, you are being redirected to something that is. Now take a breath, because what comes next will show you exactly why this had to happen. Because as this karmic doorway continues to close, something deeper begins to unfold within you, something that cannot be ignored anymore. You start to feel everything more intensely, not just the loss, but the truth beneath the loss. It shows up in quiet moments. When you're alone, when your mind finally slows down enough to process what your heart has been carrying, you may notice a strange pressure in your chest, like something is trying to move through you. Not just pain, but realization. A release that feels both heavy and necessary. You may find your sleep shifting, waking up at unusual hours, your mind drifting back to memories you thought you had already processed. Dreams that feel symbolic, almost like messages in finished conversations. Faces appearing without context, doors opening and closing. This is your subconscious clearing space. This is your inner world reorganizing itself after holding on to something that no longer fits. Even your body begins to speak differently now. You might feel sudden fatigue, like your energy is being pulled inward, or the opposite, restlessness, an inability to sit still, as if something inside you is urging movement, change, action. You may notice tightness in your throat, as if words you never said are still lingering there, asking to be acknowledged. This is not random. This is what happens when you stand at a threshold and choose not to turn away from it. Your entire system begins to recalibrate, and in this recalibration, clarity begins to rise. Not all at once, not in a single moment of understanding, but in layers. You start to see things you once ignored, moments where you compromised your truth just to keep the peace, times when you felt unseen, but convinced yourself it was enough, patterns where you gave more than you received, but told yourself that love required sacrifice. And now, standing at this karmic doorway, those justifications no longer hold their weight, because you are no longer the version of yourself who needed them. This is where emotional truth becomes undeniable. And while that truth can feel sharp, almost like a blade cutting through illusion, it is also liberating. Because once you see clearly, you cannot go back to pretending. And this is where the universe begins to shift your path, not just emotionally, but materially. Your relationship with money, work, and stability may begin to change in subtle but powerful ways. You may feel less willing to tolerate environments where your effort is not valued, less interested in chasing opportunities that drain your energy without meaningful return. There is a growing awareness inside you now, quiet but firm refusal to invest in anything that does not reflect your worth. This is part of the karmic shift, because the same pattern that kept you attached to the wrong person may have also been influencing how you show up in your financial life, overgiving, undervaluing, accepting less than what you deserve, just to maintain stability. But stability built on misalignment is never sustainable, and now you are being guided to rebuild that foundation, this time from a place of self-respect. This might look like pulling back from something that once felt secure, questioning a path you thought was safe, or even feeling a temporary uncertainty around your finances as you realign your priorities. Do not panic. This is not loss. This is correction. The universe is not taking away your security. It is removing what was falsely holding it in place. And, in doing so, it is preparing you for something far more aligned with your true value. But you must be patient in this phase, because this is where many people become reactive. They rush to fill the space. They reach for the next opportunity, the next person, the next distraction, anything to avoid sitting in the discomfort of transition. But you are not meant to rush through this doorway. You are meant to feel it, to understand it, to integrate what it is teaching you. Because what you learn here will shape everything that comes next. Now let's talk about your relationships. Because this is where the impact of this karmic shift will be felt the most. Not just in the connection that is leaving, but in how you begin to see every connection around you. You may start to notice who truly shows up for you, and who only appears when it's convenient, who listens, and who only waits for their turn to speak, who supports your growth, and who subtly resists it. These distinctions become sharper, almost uncomfortable in their clarity, because you can no longer unsee the imbalance. And this may create distance, not because you are pushing people away, but because your energy is no longer matching theirs. This is what happens when you evolve. Some people can meet you in that new space. Others cannot. And the hardest part is accepting that without trying to pull them forward with you. Because growth is not something you can force on others. It is something each person must choose. And right now, you are choosing it, even if it feels lonely, even if it feels unfamiliar, even if it means letting go of connections that once meant everything to you. This is the cost of alignment, but it is also the beginning of something real. Because as you stand firmly on your side of the threshold, something shifts in how others perceive you. You become harder to access. But not in a negative way, in a sacred way. Your energy becomes more defined, more intentional, more protected. And this changes the type of people who are drawn to you. Because when you stop abandoning yourself, you stop attracting those who benefit from that abandonment. This is where your relationships begin to transform, not immediately, not all at once, but steadily. And it begins with one simple, powerful shift. You stop chasing. You stop over-explaining. You stop trying to prove your worth, and instead, you observe, you listen, you watch how people show up consistently, not occasionally. This is your new standard, and it will filter out everything that no longer belongs in your life now. As this karmic doorway continues to close behind you, there is something you must do to fully align with this shift. You must become intentional with your energy. This is not a passive moment. This is a decisive one. You may feel the urge to revisit the past, to seek closure, to ask one more question, to understand something that feels unresolved. But understand this clearly. Closure is not something they give you. It is something you choose. And in this moment, choosing closure means choosing not to go back, not to reopen a door that the universe has already begun to close. Instead, turn your focus inward. Ask yourself the questions you've been avoiding. Where did I ignore my intuition? Where did I settle for less than I deserved? What did this connection teach me about myself? These answers are where your power returns, not in understanding them, but in understanding you. Because this was never just about them. It was about the version of you that accepted what you now recognize as Mizna. And as you integrate this, something incredible begins to happen. You stop seeing this as a loss. and start seeing it as a release, a necessary clearing, a divine redirection. Now, there are 3 zodiac signs that are feeling this karmic shift, more intensely than others right now. If you are one of these signs, this message is especially for you, Scorpio. This is your transformation. You have been holding on to something that has already shown you its truth. But your depth, your loyalty, your emotional intensity kept you connected longer than necessary. You felt it, you knew it, but you stayed. Now, the universe is stepping in, not to hurt you, but to free you from something that was quietly draining your power. This is your moment to release control, to trust the ending, and to step into a version of yourself that no longer settles for emotional inconsistency. This is not your loss. This is your rebirth. Libra, this is your awakening. You have been trying to maintain balance in a situation that was never equal, giving, adjusting, understanding, hoping that your effort would eventually create harmony. But harmony cannot exist where truth is absent, and now that truth is rising to the surface. You are being asked to stop negotiating your worth for the sake of connection, to stop choosing peace over authenticity. This doorway is closing so you can finally experience relationships that do not require you to shrink. Pisces.
Ice.
This is your boundary. You have loved deeply. You have seen potential where others saw limitations. You believed in what something could become, even when reality showed you something different. But now, your intuition is louder than your hope, and it is asking you to listen. To recognize that not everything you feel is meant to be held on to. Some connections are meant to teach, not stay, and this is one of them. Letting go does not make you cold. It makes you aligned, and for all of you. Regardless of your sign, this moment carries the same message. You are standing at a doorway that is closing for a reason, not to take something from you, but to return something to you. Your energy, your clarity, your self-respect, your future. And as this threshold seals behind you, something else begins to open. Not immediately, not loudly, but quietly, steadily, in alignment. And when it arrives, you will understand exactly why this had to end, because what is meant for you will never require you to stand in uncertainty. It will meet you clearly, fully, and without confusion. This is your shift. This is your moment. This is your crossing. Do not turn back now, because the life that is waiting for you on the other side of this doorway is everything you have been trying to find on the wrong side of it, and now you are finally ready to receive it, and now you are standing in the silence that follows the closing of that doorway. Not the kind of silence that feels empty, but the kind that feels sacred, heavy with meaning. It's charged with something unseen, yet undeniable. This is the space most people fear, because it asks you to be still long enough to feel what is real. No distractions, no illusions, no one else to fill the gaps. Just you, and the truth of where you are now. This is where the final part of your transformation begins. Because once the universe removes what no longer belongs in your life, it does not immediately replace it. It gives you something far more valuable first. Awareness, and awareness changes everything. Asterisk, you begin to see your past differently, not with regret, but with understanding. Start connecting the emotional patterns, the repeated cycles, the moments you ignored yourself just to keep something going. And instead of blaming them, you start reclaiming yourself. That is power. Real. Power is not forcing someone to stay. It is no longer needing them to. And this is the shift that defines everything that comes next. Because as you stand here now on this side of the threshold, you are no longer the same person who once stood at the beginning of that connection. You have seen too much, felt too deeply, understood too clearly. There is no going back to who you were, only forward to who you are becoming. And yes, there may still be moments where it hits you unexpectedly. A memory, a song, quiet reminder of what once was. And for a second, you may feel that pull again. That familiar emotional gravity trying to draw you back. But notice what happens now. You don't fall into it the same way. You observe it. You feel it. But you don't lose yourself in it. That is healing. That is growth. That is the proof that this karmic cycle has truly come to an end. Because when a lesson is fully learned, it no longer controls you. And that is what the universe has been guiding you toward this entire time. Freedom, not just from a person, but from a pattern that kept you small, from a version of love that required you to abandon yourself, from a cycle that repeated itself until you finally chose something different. And now you have. Even if it didn't feel like a choice at first, even if it felt like something was taken from you, look deeper. You weren't losing control. You were being redirected. Because where you are going next requires a different version of you, a version that does not chase, a version that does not question their worth, a version that does not stay where they are not fully met. And that version of you is here now. This is your new standard. And from this point forward, everything in your life will begin to reflect it. The way people approach you, the way opportunities present themselves, the way you respond to uncertainty, to attention, to affection. You will no longer accept confusion as connection. You will no longer interpret inconsistency as interest. You will no longer invest your energy where it is not reciprocated with clarity and intention. This is what alignment looks like. It is not loud, it is not rushed, it is calm, it is certain. It is grounded, and most importantly, it is mutual. Now here is the final truth you must carry with you after this moment. What left your life was not your loss, it was your release. Because anything that is meant to stay does not require you to question it. It does not make you feel unstable, uncertain, or emotionally depleted. It does not disappear when you need it most, and it certainly does not leave you standing at a doorway, wondering if you should have done more. What is meant for you meets you with the same energy you bring. It stays, it builds, it grows, without confusion, without balance, without you having to sacrifice yourself to keep it. And that is what you are being prepared for. Now something real, something aligned, something that does not trigger your wounds, but supports your growth. But you could not receive that till this ended, until this doorway closed, until you stood here, in this exact moment, fully aware of what you deserve. This is why it happened, not to hurt you, but to elevate you, not to take something away, but to make space for something greater. And one day, sooner than you think, you will look back at this moment not with pain, but with gratitude, because you will see clearly that what left was never meant to stay, and what arrived after could have never come in if you were still holding on to what you had to release. So, trust this. Even if it doesn't fully make sense yet, even if part of you is still catching up, trust the timing, trust the shift, trust the closing of this doorway, because it is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of the life you were always meant to step into. And now, you are finally walking toward it. No more hesitation, no more waiting, no more standing between what was and what could be. The threshold has been crossed, the cycle has been completed, and the universe is no longer asking you to hold on. It's asking you to rise. So rise and do not look back.